there will always be 2 preseason games. You want to know why?
Why?
Because you need a stadium dry run-through, be it for EMS or lighting or field guys or whatever. So you can have one home preseason game, one away preseason game.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday, presented, of course, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, back bright and early on a Monday for you guys. We have a terrific guest today. We bring him on once a year to just kind of get the lay of the land, the latest from a medical standpoint in the NFL. He's Dr. David Chao. You can follow him on social media at ProFootballDoc. He's got that awesome website, sportsinjurycentral.com. It's social. It's at SixScore. At any rate, I think you can get there, SixScore.com as well. But the guy was the Chargers' orthopedic surgeon for double-digit years, and obviously he's still all over it with talking with people in the league, and we referenced it last week multiple times on the Even Money Betting podcast, the advantage that Chao gives fantasy people and bettors just from a health standpoint. But I think what people don't realize is that there can be and often is a medical competitive advantage between teams. I believe, certainly with the different teams I played on, I could give examples. So we got Dr. David Chao in the house. Then there's some very interesting news at the NFL level in terms of losing someone that many people think has the best chance to be the next commissioner of the NFL. And the Rams, probably the most active team since last Thursday's show. Remember, love those of you that give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That's huge. That counts as being a winner, by the way, if you screenshot it and email it to me, ross@rosstucker.com, as well as subscribing, whether it's the podcast or youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. Sharing on social media is huge. Love all that stuff. Love all of you guys. Let's get into it with Dr. Chao, who's presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly.
The Big Show.
All right, it's our annual conversation with Dr. David Chao, longtime team orthopedic surgeon for the San Diego Chargers, not the Los Angeles Chargers, San Diego Chargers. Bring him on at least once a year. We had him on back for the Super Bowl to discuss some of the injuries specific to the Super Bowl. Now we get a chance to just talk about some other topics league-wide. And I don't really have major injury information to get to with you. I want to talk more big picture. You can check him out on social media at ProFootballDoc like I do. And you guys know I follow, as of right now, 73 people, and one of them is ProFootballDoc, as well as SixScore, SixScore.com, which is the best information if you're into betting or fantasy, or even if you just want to know for your own team. You got to follow SixScore.com or become a member on the website, SixScore.com. All right. Goodell has been very outspoken recently about 18 games. How many years now have we had 17? It's only been 2 or 3, right?
Maybe more than 2 or 3, but just not too many. Not too
Right.
many.
I will say this, though. It doesn't seem like, Dr. Chao, that there have been more injuries. I don't have any data in front of me, but it doesn't seem like there's been more injuries because of the added game. And, in fact, I don't know. I haven't noticed it in the playoffs at all. I mean, in recent years, it doesn't seem like the injuries have been a big story, maybe less of a big story than they used to be.
Well, the NFL's done everything they can. Obviously the kickoff rule, different helmets, etc., trying to cut back on injuries as best you can, but it's still a collision sport. There's still injuries. If you have 16 regular season games versus 17, the biggest thing for me is it messes up the math, right? It's not 4-4 games.
Oh, yeah. That annoys the crap out of me.
So I still haven't gotten used to that one yet. But I said all along they're going to go to 18 games, but I got to give the league credit. See, when they were talking about going from 16 to 17, I said, why add a 17th game when you could just add a second bye week? There's still plenty of football. Now you got an extra week of TV, an extra Sunday game, Monday game, and you get the revenue you need without increasing safety. Well, because I think the NFL is very smart. They always were eyeing 18 games. I think this is when they're going to add 2 bye weeks, and then 2 preseason, 2 bye weeks, 18 NFL games, and now Super Bowl is on President's Day weekend. That's where I think the league is headed. And not only I get 2 bye weeks were tried in the 90s, but Ross, that was at a time when football and fantasy football didn't dominate. Look, early in my NFL career with the Chargers, people always asked me, are they playing at home or away? Is it a 10 a.m. kickoff or a 1 p.m. kickoff? Because they're trying to plan their day. That doesn't happen anymore. People just like turn on the game on the West Coast at 10 o'clock and see what's there. 1 o'clock, see what's there. You turn on Monday Night Football and see what's there, kind of thing. And because there's so many games, I don't think people are going to mind the 2 bye weeks this time around, and that's going to help with an 18-game schedule. You have 1 bye week early, 1 bye week later, and that might help with safety.
So you're adding 2 more weeks to the season.
You're going to take away 1 preseason game. And then you're going to add 1 week and put the Super Bowl into the Super Bowl President's Day weekend.
Okay, so...
And you're never going to take away the 2 preseason games.
So you're starting Labor Day.
No, you're going to start at the same time.
Then you're adding 2 weeks to the season.
Yeah, start Labor Day. Yeah, start Labor Day, right, before Labor Day, as opposed to after, right?
Right, so then you got to start Labor Day, which is historically bad for TV ratings because people are doing stuff. So now your opening weekend is going to be...
Did the NFL have a problem with Christmas?
No, because Christmas is historically good for ratings.
For basketball, or okay, for sports in general. But, I mean, look, it's football. Football ratings are good regardless, right, especially if it's opening weekend. There will always be 2 preseason games. You want to know why?
Why?
Because you need a stadium dry run-through, be it for EMS or lighting or field guys or whatever. So you can have 1 home preseason game, 1 away preseason game. It's a stadium run-through as well as for players.
Ooh.
Right? So you're never going to get away with all the preseason games. And then you go into the 2 bye weeks in 18. It's good for health. And here's something else that it opens up to. With 2 bye weeks, you compare teams coming off a bye and start Wednesday night football. Look, the NFL paired 2 teams playing on Saturday, 2 sets of teams, and then played them on Wednesday. Now, if you have a team coming off a bye, you could play them against each other on a Wednesday. They'd have sort of a pseudo mini bye before, mini bye after, same time out, same time off, same rest. But I think it also opens up all the international games that the commissioner is talking about in terms of travel, more schedule flexibility. So I think it's going to happen, and I think they're going to balance off the safety concerns by taking away 1 preseason game and adding a second bye week, 1 early, 1 late in the season.
Do you have any concerns from a health and safety standpoint about adding another game?
Well, I mean, it's the more double black diamond ski runs you take, the more risk you take to your knee. So there is that concern, but it's football. It's a collision sport. You're rolling the dice every time. But do I see it being mass or ACL tears are going to jump by 30% and things like that? No.
Are you surprised that adding the game hasn't had more of a impact on injuries?
Well, I would call it small sample size, and so that makes it hard. I mean, one of the things that probably increased health risk and safety, if you really think about it, is more than the 17th game, and tell me if you would agree with this, is adding a 3rd wildcard team. That added a lot more teams potentially in the mix later in the season, needing to continue to go all out and play hard with their backs to the wall kind of situation. So if you want to talk about injury risk, it's competitive, hard-fought games are injury risk, and there were more of those because of the playoff circumstances.
You know what they've done, too, that is really, really good as far as this is concerned. They don't practice anywhere near like what we used to. I mean, seriously.
I know. Back in those days, you had to walk 5 miles through the snow, uphill and back both
Listen,
ways.
my rookie year was Marty Schottenheimer, 2001, and I think the first 10 days were 2 full padded practices, like 3 hours. The first 10 days. I remember saying to my parents, I tore my MCL on the 4th day. I broke my hand in the second preseason game. I remember thinking, I hope I make it because this is the only year I'll be able to do. I have no idea how these guys do this every year. I mean, it was so grueling. And now you go to training camp or practice during the regular season, and I would submit to you that these guys are going to be healthier orthopedically than we were, even with the longer season, because they practice so much better.
There's no question that, there's trackers at practice and fatigue and the whole thing and analytics and safety and sports science and all that stuff. But you're right. We had in San Diego Marty Schottenheimer come in and everyone was ready for the toughness and the big drill he always does. I'm blanking on it. The one-on-one.
Oklahoma.
Thank you. The Oklahoma drill. Everyone's all excited about it. But that I watched how the veterans handled that. The rookies meant mano a mano, and it went crazy, right? But the vets like Donnie Edwards, who I love, and Donnie Edwards, was obviously not the biggest middle linebacker in the world. Amazing sideline to sideline, made a lot of plays. And here he comes, and he's going to get blown up, and he does the Olay dance and makes it work, and it gets away. Like, there are vet ways to get around. The rookies would just bash heads on the Oklahoma drill. So, there's ways around it. Or maybe Marty softened up a little bit later in his coaching career. I don't know.
Do you think there's a competitive advantage medically between teams?
Well, I think it depends on the situation, and the answer is maybe. The Eagles have a very unusual circumstance. When they won their Super Bowl in 2019,
17.
17.
Super Bowl was 18, the 17
okay,
season.
Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Very unusual move. They moved on from their medical staff after they won the Super Bowl.
A lot of injuries that year.
Yet they still won the Super Bowl, and they moved on from their medical staff. And this year, and Eagles since have gone through several different medical staffs. This year they brought the guy back, Dr. DeLuca, back this year. So I just saw him yesterday at Media Day. I said, so you exited on a Super Bowl, maybe you come back on a Super Bowl with. That'd be pretty cool. And he had a little sign. So does it make a difference? I think every little bit helps. Look, but just like, every backup left guard helps the situation, is there one thing that's like, we added Saquon Barkley and now we're going to the Super Bowl? Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but every little thing helps in the big picture, I believe.
Well, the organizations do.
Yes.
Do you think it's fair?
And the good organizations put in good medical.
Do you think it's fair when organizations fire strength and conditioning staffs because there's a bunch of injuries?
I would say it depends. For example, for me, depends on how much the strength and conditioning staff is allowed to work with players to prevent injuries, right? For example, I got grief all the time. I remember saying this to 2 different GMs who would say, oh, you're giving me all this bad news, you're this, that, the other. And I literally would say to them, Ross, I'm Paul Revere. I'm not the British. I'm not hurting them. I'm just telling you the injuries are here. I'm just telling you the British are coming. You don't employ me in the off season to do strength and conditioning and compliance and ACL injury reduction programs. I'm just trying to get people better once they're injured and do what we can to keep them from getting more injured. And so it depends on the situation. It's easy to say, oh, it's the medical staff that's bad, but you got to look at the construction of the staff and how they're empowered before you put the blame. You also have to look at injuries. I mean, if this is a bad luck injury and someone's foot was caught and his knee got racked, or is this a guy getting hamstring injury after hamstring injury where they're not rehabbing them correctly?
I was on a team where we did power cleans from the ground, and at least 3, maybe 4 of us offensive linemen had to have back surgeries. And I was convinced that part of it was pulling the bar from the ground with that weight before you did the explosive movement. Any thoughts?
Depending on what the reason for the back surgery was, I might say you have something there and a link. And there probably, depending what type of disc injury it was, there may be a link to that. But I'd have to look at the individual circumstances before we just said it caused all these 3 back issues. But you might have something there because that's also, nowadays, Ross, you do more natural football movements. That's not a natural football movement from the ground.
Yeah, the other thing, too, I'm convinced, I'm actually surprised more offensive linemen don't have back issues because if you think about, like, I have short legs, but I have a long torso. So to be over the ball or to be in a 3-point stance, and then every time I'm either rolling up through my hips into a guy or I'm trying to snap back into a pass protection posture as fast as I can. It just, like, I don't know anything about anything, but that to me seems like it would be a lot on.
Well, you're right
on the
about
back.
that, and I'm ashamed of myself, Ross. I've known you for a long time. I've never noticed that about you, but you are right. You are longer the torso than the legs. Like, you're taller sitting down than you are standing up. You're still tall standing up, but
Oh, no.
sitting down, you're taller.
Yeah, no,
than
I'm like, I can wear like 32-inch inseam. Like my wife's 5'5", I'm almost 6'5", and our legs are almost the same length. Because she's like all
I
legs.
noticed that for the first time about you here. So there is something but I'll tell you something. Combines are coming up, and I'll let you know on a little secret. I mean, and this is where also medical can help. We paid a ton of attention to low backs on offensive linemen. Even asked for special x-rays to rule out a spondy injury that you could play through and we wouldn't notice but would cause you problems later on in your life and career. So we screened for some of those things. And so you're right, especially in pass sets and what you're talking about, low back is a big deal in offensive linemen, bigger than a lot of other positions. So you do have something there.
Give me an update. What's like is there any latest new things that they do, whether it's scans or treatment or rehab? I have patella tendonitis in my right knee, and a couple guys, Bo Allen and Jason Kelsey, they were talking about this, like, I forget what it's called. Like, you put like a restriction thing on.
Yeah.
Like a blood flow restriction.
Blood flow restriction.
What
Ross,
is that?
Let me tell you something. I'm proud to say I embraced that technology way back when I was in the NFL. Every week as an NFL health team physician, someone brought in some newfangled X, Y, and Z. And 9 times out of 10, it was absolutely ridiculous. And a few times it would have some merit, but we were already doing something related to that. Blood flow restriction, and I actually don't love the name blood flow restriction. I prefer blood flow modification, but that gets more esoteric, is absolutely one of the revolutions out there. There are several devices out there. People have talked
And they say BFR for short, right?
BFR for short.
Yeah.
They're all similar. The best one, I believe, is Katsu. It's from Japan because it's detachable. It's thin bands. It can be on arms and or legs simultaneously. There's a cycle function, and it's never a tourniquet. But there are several different types of BFR. I think they're all good. I think the Katsu's the Tesla, but there's nothing wrong with the Prius or an all-electric Ford
What does it
vehicle.
do? How does it work?
Well, the theory is purely this. Normally, you need to do 70 to 80% of a 1-rep max, a set of 70 to 80% of 1-rep max to get muscle hypertrophy. So if you're bench pressing, if you bench press 200 pounds, you got to bench press 150 pounds set of 12 or 8 or whatever to get muscle hypertrophy. With blood flow modification and restriction therapy, you can do it by getting muscle hypertrophy by just doing the bar. Lower weights and still get muscle hypertrophy. So what's the benefit of that potentially? For you, with patella tendonitis, you need to work the tendon, but you can't do too much because it'd be too sore, and then all your leg muscles atrophy. It's a way to prevent atrophy while you work around a hamstring injury. Or I started using it 15 plus years ago on ACL recovery, because after an ACL, your leg withers away in terms of atrophy because you can't do a lot. But if you can get muscle hypertrophy from just a 15-pound leg press, that is very helpful. So blood flow modification, blood flow restriction, most teams have it right now. And it's in all sports. I saw this year Clayton Kershaw had it on his arms for the Dodgers. Shohei had it on. And Aaron Rodgers, when he was on Pat McAfee, I didn't see the device, but I could hear the telltale sounds of the device working as he was on the show.
What are the sounds?
Like it's like a tourniquet type, like airflow filling up and down like a machine in the background.
Because we used to have those game readies when I was playing.
It's probably a tiny bit louder than a game ready, and it's a little different technology. But I can't swear that Aaron Rodgers used the Katsu product, but it sounded like the telltale sound, and no one would be surprised if Aaron Rodgers reached out and got the latest technology to help in rehab and recovery, right?
No. Is there anything else jumping out to you about anything in medicine that has been big for football?
Well, medicine continues to grow. One thing that I would push out there a little bit, helmets are never meant. Oh, and by the way, Ross, you'll be surprised. You've met my wife before. When my son was little, she said, no way in heck is he playing tackle football.
Yep.
Right? You remember that?
I can imagine.
All right? You've met her before. She's got him ready to be signed up for tackle football.
Wow.
Partly because she sees the benefit and of just the team sport of it all, and has some friends, and part of it is my son's 12. He's excited about it because he sees all the football I do. But the best thing that happened about the Chiefs winning this time, even though he's a Chiefs fan and Mahomes fan, I took him to the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl in Arizona, and he said, oh, this is boring. They've already played, so he didn't want to come, so he saved me thousands of dollars this time.
That is funny.
But anyways, especially for kids, helmets technology, you still can't get rid of all concussions. But there's a line of helmets out of there called light helmets that are lighter. Players all want their shoes to be a half-ounce lighter. This helmet is over a pound lighter, and imagine the effects of that on pee-wee or high school kids in terms of your neck not having the, quote, bobblehead effect. So that's probably some good technology that's come out of the NFL, et cetera. And that's an NFL-approved helmet, the light helmet.
Check him out on social media at ProFootballDoc. He joins us every year. Of course, the website is sixscore.com, sportsinjurycentral.com. It's not just football. They do other sports as well. If you want to know the truth or the most information possible as it relates to injury information, especially in the NFL, make sure you're following him on social media at ProFootballDoc and sign up at sportsinjurycentral.com. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's dive into the news. But first, borderline obsessed with the Game Time app at this point. It was incredible to go to the U.S. Open yesterday and have a terrific time. How about this? Jack's, I just pulled this up. I didn't even know this. It's 10 minutes from my house. Jack's favorite rapper, Kendrick Lamar, Hershey Park Stadium tonight, 7 p.m. Jack, you should go. You could go. Get the Game Time app, and all you need to do is make sure you save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The fees are included, lowest price guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, so again, create an account and redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. There was a lot of Smirnoff being drunk over the weekend, whether it was the first couple days of the weekend at the Jersey Shore, and then Sunday at the U.S. Open. They had an open bar. That was lovely. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL, official vodka partner of this show, which says a lot about a lot. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer. Head over to Smirnoff.com. They got all kinds of recipes for delicious cocktails that you've never even heard of before. Perfect for game day, perfect for any weekend, any day, I don't care. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, the biggest news from the weekend, something you mentioned earlier, the NFL, they lose their executive Brian Vrolap to the PGA Tour.
That's interesting on multiple levels, Jack. So, number one, I was at the U.S. Open yesterday, out in Oakmont Country Club, out in Western PA. That was fun, man. I had no idea that going to a golf tournament was basically just an excuse to day drink all day. That was news to me. That was incredible. I will say, man, it's like a whole village. It's a whole city. It's all over the place. And for those guys to play the way they do in the weather with all those fans, that was fascinating. But I think they realize they need to do better. And Brian Vrolap has done a terrific job for the NFL, especially with the television contracts. The question I think is interesting there, I don't have the answer to this, Jack, is a lot of people think he's the presumptive favorite to be the next commissioner of the NFL. The deal is, though, you don't really know when Roger Goodell is going to leave. And does this help him or hurt him, right? Roger Goodell supposedly is doing one more contract, but I feel like we've heard that before. And so I think you could probably argue maybe this helps Vrolap to have that experience at the PGA Tour. You wonder if the PGA Tour thought of that, hey, are we just renting this guy for like 3 years and then he goes back to the NFL? Very interesting dynamic there.
The Rams, they've been active since our last show, signing left tackle DJ Humphrey as Alaric Jackson is dealing with blood clots, and they waived former starting cornerback Darian Kendrick.
Kendrick got off to a really fast start in his career. Not sure exactly what happened there. I know there were always some concerns about him off the field. I hate hearing about those blood clots for Alaric Jackson. I hope he's okay. They think he'll be able to play this year, but it sounds like they're getting DJ Humphries as insurance. And then the Saints signed running back Cam Akers, Jack, and Texans DB Jimmy Ward was arrested on felony family assault charges. That does not sound good, but this is usually this month. You know, from here until late July, there usually are a few guys that get in trouble with the law, a lot of free time on their hands. Other than that, I think we're done here. Time to finish this episode strong right after this. I had a heck of a weekend, and if you saw, I was drinking some Labatt Blue Light Lime at the beach. And with Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, just head to the website, snap a photo of your receipt, snap a photo of your beer too, and send it to me on social media. Upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. You can get points for every purchase at any store, bar, or stadium, any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt. I love this promotion. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. Always a good gift for an anniversary or a birthday. myfrontpagestory.com. Give a loved one the cover page treatment they deserve. Backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.